Welcome to Work Life Unbalanced, a Tier 1 web series exploring the challenges and opportunities of virtual work. I'm Jordan Rickard, your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Heather Huber. Hi, Heather.
Hi, Jordan. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about the importance of communication and trust and why it's so important, not just in a virtual environment, but especially right now during this crisis.
Joining us for today's conversation are two more of our favorite Tier 1ers, Greg Harmeyer and Katy Cookendorfer. Hi, Greg. Hi, Katy.
Hi, everyone.
Good morning.
Greg, as CEO of Tier 1, you've needed to communicate to the organization as we weather this storm over the past several weeks. What has been your approach? What have you learned?
Well, I think the biggest thing was the frequency of communication needed. People really want to hear. They need to hear from any kind of leadership, and they need to hear what direction things are going. Things were changing so frequently early on that I think we, increased communication to daily. And I didn't think we'd have to do that, but I think people found it very helpful. And it's just, there's so many moving parts. A week felt like a year, a day felt like a month. And so I just think the frequency of communication was critical. And the other thing was the need for two-way communication. We needed to be able to listen and hear what others are feeling and seeing at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think hearing from you consistently on that consistent basis and just, hearing what was going on and understanding our approach was so incredibly helpful. We talk about information is so powerful, and just having the information to be able to, kind of backbrain it, deal with it, process it, has been incredibly helpful for us to be able to focus on the things that we need to do on a daily basis. So, we all just want to say thank you for doing that, Greg. And Katy, I know that you've been hearing from employees and everyone at Tier 1. So, what do you hear, and what do you think you think that employees need to hear the most right now?
Yeah, Heather, and I think just thinking about the value that they bring to the organization and really helping them think through and navigate during this challenging times. Some people right now, they're working virtually for the first time. They're figuring out their rhythm and cadence there, and they're balancing just so many things, including, caregiving for children and even becoming teacher and with homeschooling right now. So figuring out that balance and really helping them to navigate, like, how are they adding value? So as a leader, it's really been helpful for me to check in with people more often, but also just reassuring them that they're adding value and helping them navigate that tension and that balance.
Absolutely. When leaders speak honestly about the difficulties we're facing and yet find ways to identify the good work people are doing, it really creates a bond that can strengthen an organization. Greg, why is trust so important during a crisis?
Well, I think trust is critically important today in any mode and at any time. It is in a crisis and challenging times where it's either built or destroyed. And I do think that trust comes from transparency and openness and authenticity. And because things are changing so often, you've got to get everybody willing to stay aligned and committed to the same vision. And the way you do that is to be honest about where things are. And that's not easy to do, but if you're not fully communicating along the way, people will write their own story. It's human nature. They'll fill in the gaps, they'll fill in the details on their own. And so using communication as a tool to build trust is critical, but you've got to really be fully open about everything along the way, because if you don't, people, will see holes in it and start to damage trust.
Yeah, and I think in filling the gaps is where people start to you start to see that drag on performance. You start to see the rumors, the stories get made up, because I think when there is that gap, that's when the trust starts to get eroded. So having that transparency has been so critical, I know now, and just in general at Tier 1. So Katy, why do you think that trust seems to be so important right now during the crisis, from your vantage point?
It's a great question, Heather. And I think just being transparent and knowing that you have that trust within your organization, with your leadership, and with each other, I think too, as team members, working together, just trusting each other, knowing that we're here for each other and we're supportive, but also thinking about going into the situation, checking in, how can I help you? And balancing where there might be some struggle for focus, thinking through how can we help them prioritize their day and what's going on with all of their personal aspects of their life as well. And just balancing where they're contributing and adding value. So thinking about taking care of our employees, taking care of our business, and just really balancing that can be difficult, and really just making sure that we're putting the individuals first. And it's really a tough balance to navigate through.
Yeah, no, it's a tightrope indeed. But I think what we've heard today is, during this time, it's important to increase the frequency of communication. It's important to help people see the value that they're bringing, even if if their focus might be a bit split during this time. We have to be transparent. We have to give the information that we have, make sure that people have accurate information so they don't write their own story, and walk that tightrope of providing comfort and yet also giving people the courage, and the challenge to take care of business during this difficult time as well. Greg and Katy, thanks so much for joining us today. What an insightful conversation. And today we're signing off and bringing our Work-Life Unbalanced series to an end. Thank you so much for tuning in as we've attempted to highlight some of the challenges that we're facing during this unique time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.